Hey everyone, welcome to Gamer Therapy with your boy Doc Shmad. This is the gaming podcast for Dweeb Factory, and we're going to go over a lot of interesting little gigs today. So we're going to get into some of the highlights of the week. Lawbreakers gameplay came out. That's a Cliff Bleszinski, and we talked about this on Game Talk. Kevin and I did. So it's Cliff Bleszinski's first real gigantic, huge, first-person shooter thing that is coming out from Boss Key after Bleszinski pulled away from the previous studio he was at, and he's the guy who's the mastermind behind a lot. Well, I guess not mastermind, but one of the big names behind Unreal Tournament, I mean, and also Gears of War. He was part of that team that came up with the whole let's put a chainsaw on an assault rifle and saw alien guys in half. It looks fantastic. Essentially, what the game is, just in case you have no clue what I'm talking about, Lawbreakers is just we tried colonizing the moon. We blew up the moon like the smart people we are, and because that affects the tide and everything, we suffered some catastrophic events that decided to wreck us all apart. And then some gang guys came in, and then you're just a guy who's keeping the peace. Is really all you are. So some of that gameplay came out. You get to see some chick running around with a grapple hook, Zelda style. She like flies around the side of this cliff, grapples onto something, swings around, drop kicks some guy in the face. It's pretty cool. So that's some of the big news that has come out. Borderlands movie was announced. There's no other details other than I think it's Lionsgate is doing it. If not, it'd be Legendary Pictures. I know it starts with an L. Don't judge me. But yeah, it's Borderlands movie is coming out, which is kind of, you can debate about it to see if it'd be a good film or not and talk about it. I mean, that's such a, I guess you could call it a comic book looking art style. It's just going to be interesting to see what they're going to do with it. First look at Assassin's Creed with Michael Fassbender. This came out. You got to see him in his Assassin's Creed attire. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and check that out. There's a bunch of videos about it, a bunch of articles about it and whatnot, so it should be pretty easy to find. And one of the things that I was talking to my buddies about was how relevant is this to your normal life? Because there's always a big fad that rolls through. And a while back, it was the whole, vampires and werewolves thing, that Twilight crap, and 30 Days of Night was getting big, and people started reading Dracula again, and Van Helsing, and I mean, the list goes on of the pointless teeny bopper things that we can name, and also a little bit more of the good quality stories that have come out about something like that. And after that, it turned into zombies, and that right now we're in the superhero fad, the superhero craze. I think what it's going to go into is a little bit more of a video game. This is just my personal opinion, a video game esque for movies. And when I say fat, I mean for movies. But it's going to move into video game movies, I think, a little bit more. The reason, I mean, we've seen some video game movies come out. Doom was an epic failure. The Final Fantasy movie was pretty good at best. And that was animated at that. So as for live action stuff, we know that there's a lot of game movies that have come out. Mad Max, which was complete dog crap. And then there was Hitman, which wasn't a bad film. It was something you get on Redbox and you get to jack around and watch that one, kind of have a drink with your buddies while you see that. But it's nothing that you walk away from going, oh my gosh, so-and-so deserves best actor, or that cinematography was phenomenal, or oh wow, that music that just did something to me. And right now it's the superhero thing. And so I think a lot of it is, are you going to create a fad to, what is it, to relate to people, or are you going to create a fad just to create something, that has no relevance to anyone in their lives, which will die out quick, like stupid dinosaur-shaped rubber bands. It comes up quick and it dies quick. That little stupid, crazy rubber band thing. But the superhero thing's been able to be around for a long time because of simple things, like in Age of Ultron, when Tony's like, that all these aliens are going to come, and what are we going to do whenever they all come, and Tony said, or not Tony, Steve Rogers, Captain America says, we'll basically cross that bridge when it comes. We'll take care of that whenever that comes. And he said, well, we'll lose, if we try. And Captain America's talking about doing everything together and doing what's right. And he says, well, then we'll do that together too. And I think that speaks to people, because then they can say, oh, whatever happens, my family and I stay together, yada yada, however you want to apply it to your life. So how can the next big craze be successful and have some longevity like the last couple are, is how can they make these movies to want people, or to get people to want for them to make more of them? You have to apply it to their lives. I think, you have to, you have to tell them, well, this character is going through this dilemma. This is how you can mirror your life to that. This is how you can relate. And I think that's just a little, I guess, a rant about how I feel it's going to happen with the next big craze with movies. Moving up next in some of the news, and some of the Newsweek highlights are, it's so disappointing for movies, at least. We have Splinter Cell announced for 2017. Splinter Cell games, I mean, there's been a few good ones. Siphon Filter actually was pretty good. But as for the other ones, it's nothing that I walked away from going, oh my gosh, Splinter Cell, yeah, that was the shiz for spy games and for sneak games, and I never walked away feeling that. Angry Birds 2016 is a joke, along with other crap like the Pez movie announced, with Pixels coming out recently. I guess everyone's trying to get in on this dog crap. But anyway, so let's get into some actual gamer news. Guild Wars 2 is actually now free, and it's free to play, but you can also have a paid version. So they kind of do it like SWTOR, Star Wars: The Old Republic. They kind of do it like that, where it's free to play, but if you pay for it, then you can actually get a lot more content. And what Guild Wars 2 is doing is everyone can play. You can just jump in, do whatever you want. You can play, but you cannot raid, and that will be available in a paid version. There's not a lot of details released on how it will work with world PvP, with other battlegrounds that are involved with that, if that's going to be something available in the paid version, or if it's going to be available in free. So we're still waiting on that. But just a quote from one of the developers, one of the lead guys in Guild Wars for Guild Wars 2 says, on the matter of making it free to play, and this just happened, by the way, this just happened right after they announced the release date for Heart of Thorns. So that's why it's kind of a significant thing. They're going to do another huge change to the game. And he says, we've seen cases in the industry where a game is buy to play and comes out with the expansion packs, and you want to get your friends into the game, but they can't just buy the latest thing and play with you. You might have saved up for that one game, but they just spent all their money on, Witcher 3 or whatever, and they can't afford the next thing, is essentially what he's saying. But they can't just buy the latest thing and play with you, said O'Brien. You have to buy the prerequisites. You have to buy the base game in each expansion pack just to be qualified to buy the latest. It's just a barrier to entry. Guild Wars 2 is the game about tearing down those barriers and making it easy to play with your friends. So they think they're changing the game by doing what other MMOs have, but really what's different about them is that they're the only people who are big enough to be able to pull this off and still be successful at it. Because you look at the gaming industry right now, and you have a lot of free-to-play games, and some people think, it was free-to-play games killing a lot of these games, a lot of these MMOs, a lot of these other games. Are they making it grow? Are they making it decrease at all? So it's one of those things where you kind of have to look at, well, it depends on the size of that game. It depends on the player base of that game. It depends on so many other moving parts. You can't just say, oh, they went free to play, it's going to die out, it's going to fail. That's not how it works. I mean, look at Angry Birds, free to play. And if you pay for it, you get a little bit extra stupid levels, maybe another bird, and you don't get ads. That's the biggest thing. You just don't get beat down by ads with mobile games. And if it's free to play, and then you do something like Star Wars: The Old Republic and pay for it, there's a lot more involved with that game. You can still play a quality MMO, fantastic graphics, tons to do. I mean, it's an MMO. They're like the most endless games on the planet, but tons to do. But for a company who is putting on, or a studio who's doing something like Guild Wars, to come out and just say this, it's a really big deal. You look at MMOs like Lord of the Rings Online, people say, oh, that went free to play and that killed it. That game just sucked. That's why it died. Otherwise, people would still be playing it. It was supposed to be a WoW killer, and World of Warcraft is still dominating the MMO side of things. I mean, you have fantastic games like Guild Wars 2 and Rift and whatnot, but which are free. But you look at this model of let's try and make games more available to people. And it's interesting what the outcome is, because sometimes it blows up in their face in a bad way. Sometimes it blows up in everyone else's face in a fantastic way. So I'm excited to see where this is going. I played the living crap out of Guild Wars 1, and what the issue was they had so many expansion packs, and each of them was like $20. I mean, I was like 17 playing this game thinking like, goodness, I have all these little tiny bills I got to pay for, phone and car insurance and everything. But you pay for those, and then it's like, oh, well, I want to play, I want to get the new Guild Wars thing and play with all my buddies, and someone is a dervish running around, and I'm still a warrior because I can't be anything else, and it was frustrating. So I like what they're doing with changing this up and with being a quote-unquote, in their eyes, I guess, a game changer, even though they're not. The reason that they feel that way is because they're big enough to pull something like this off. We're going to go and do another segment here. Because you're with the doc, I want to know how something makes you feel. Imagine yourself lying down, and I'm in my nice leather chair, and you tell me, well, Honey Boo Boo is not on TV anymore, and I say, well, how does that make you feel? That's really what I want you to get into right now, because we're going to talk about companies copying something successful and putting their own spin on it, and how this makes you feel. So I'm kind of interested to see. Blizzard, for one. I'm a huge Blizzard fan. It's no secret. If you watch our game talk and everything on Dweeb Factory on YouTube. I'm a huge Blizzard fan. I play those games more than anything else. Namely, games like World of Warcraft and everything. And I was watching a video recently, I guess not recently, back around E3 time. Someone said Blizzard's strategy right now is copying something successful and putting their own spin on it. And Overwatch is what he was talking about at the time. That was Video Game Donkey. He was talking about that at the time. And Blizzard has come out and said, well, we're not copying Team Fortress, but that's exactly what it looks like. Overwatch is a game that as soon as the release date comes out, if there's alpha, if there's beta, whatever, I want in on it. I'm going to play the heck out of it. I'm not dogging the game. I'm just talking about how they took something like Team Fortress, which Valve developed and everything. I played the heck out of Team Fortress 1 and 2. They were both great, even though I feel like the assassin killed Team Fortress 2. But anyway, so it looks almost the exact same, where it's this side versus this side, and you guys kind of have at it in this battleground thing. If you saw the gameplay, I think the last real big gameplay they released was when Torbjorn was doing his whole turret thing, which that guy whooped everyone on that map. But if you look at that gameplay, you get to see how the team dynamic works, how someone jumps in, the big old monkey guy jumps in and he starts bashing people around. There's a guy with a shield. There's a guy with a turret. There's a guy, there's a sneaky person. There's someone who's a little bit more of a sniping thing and everything. So in hearing that, you think, oh, well, that's how Call of Duty is, and that's how everything else is. But this focuses a little bit more on how important your specific role is and how you can't just go full YOLO and win everything. You have to actually work with your team. Hence the whole Team Fortress thing. Other games that are like that are like, arguably, again, Battleborn, Gearbox, here out of Dallas. They're in Plano, moving to Frisco. So, I mean, Gearbox developing Battleborn right now, their whole thing is for every kind of badass. You have your specific hero and stuff. You can be the guy who throws the kunai. You can be the guy with the sword who brings a sword to a gunfight. You can be the guy who's got the huge Gatling gun, the spellcaster, the explosion person, the whatever. But it's also this side versus this side, whether it's red and blue, light and dark, good and bad, I don't know, Mexican, American, whatever you want to say. But that's basically what it is. And Lawbreakers looks like it's doing the same thing as well. It's that kind of arena style feel of these guys versus these guys, but each role plays a very, very specific, or each class plays a very, very specific role in that game. And so that's why I feel it's kind of interesting how the gaming industry is going right now of, well, it's not that they can't think of anything else to make, that which I've heard some people say, which is retarded. There's so many things that they could think of and do. There's so much original content. However, if a concept is not broken, why would you try and fix it? So why would you try and come out with some innovative, brand new, crazy, oh my gosh, I've never seen this kind of thing in a game before, whatever. If that's what your goal is, then go ahead and do it. You can be successful at it. But why not take something that is already successful and put your own spin on it? Like Team Fortress, for example. Everyone loves Team Fortress. If you've played it before, everyone loves that game. So why not have something that comes out that's similar? Every RPG game, I feel, I might get slaughtered for this, but every RPG game, I feel, is the same at heart when it comes to like the hack and slash RPGs. Look at Champions of Norath, Champions Return to Arms, Baldur's Gate. You look at even Diablo, for example. And you look at, there's a new one that we talked about last week in our show. I think it's like Sword of Legends or some crap like that. You run around, you do some story thing, and then what you're able to do is beat up a few guys, upgrade your character. Story might be good, story might be bad, but it's basically the same thing. Start at point A, get to point B. It's motivated by story, upgrade your guy, beat dudes up. You can argue that that's the premise of every video game, but if you've played one of those top-down RPGs like that, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where they all play very, very similar. There's just small nuances throughout that studio puts their, that's their staple, essentially. And so even those games, people keep playing them, even though you can argue that it's, they all look the same, they all play the same. Well, yeah, because people like it. So why would you try and do something different? Not to say that's bad or good. It's just that's the reason. A couple other games like that, it is people say that World of Warcraft is the MMO that everyone else tries basing everything off of, which might be true, might be not. But the guys at Blizzard, when they were developing World of Warcraft, Ultima Online came out, and they thought, wow, this is incredible. You can immerse yourself into this fantasy world. You can go with your friends and go defeat something. And then right after that, EverQuest came out. Heavily grindy game, massive online thing. They had this huge following, tons of people subscribing and playing this game. And so they thought, oh, well, I want to immerse myself into a world like that. Let's make something that I would want to play. And so they took Warcraft and made it into that type of universe. And you could argue that they're copying. You could argue that they were inspired, whatever you want to call it. They weren't the first ones to do that. And so getting back to the whole, how does that make you feel thing? I guess, do you agree? Do you not? Think about that. Do you think that a lot of these companies now are doing all these innovative things, or are they just kind of recycling ideas? I think it's intriguing. Hearthstone, you can argue Magic the Gathering type of game, battle with cards and crap. Here's the Storm, influenced heavily by Dota 2 and League. It's a MOBA, so I don't know. But anyway, so a lot of games like that. Destiny is basically a Halo MMO. We all know that. But it's successful. It's a big game. The other day I was watching this one channel with Kevin, and these two guys who weren't even doing subscriptions. They weren't even making money on Twitch. They had like 20, 30,000 people watching this Twitch stream at like 11 at night. And it was so phenomenal to me of, wow, people still like this crap of, the crap Bungie puts out, and not calling it crap. I'm just saying that kind of game that people put out, or that Bungie puts out, people still love that. So why would you try and fix something that is not broken? The whole Halo concept was not broken. It just kind of got old after a while. But moving on, our next segment is Ask a Nika, because I'm Nicaraguan, so Ask a Nika. It's going to be really fun right now. I had a couple of my buddies send in some questions to my email for Gamer Therapy with Doc Shmad. It's docshmad@gmail.com, and that's Shmad with SHMAD. You can send in some questions. I'll go ahead and read them out on the show if they're appropriate enough, or if they're concise enough, and if they create a lot of good conversation. So first one is, do you think gaming is moving into a more cinematic style of playing, and why? I really like this question because gaming, I do feel that it is not getting into a cinematic, or excuse me, that it is getting into a cinematic style of playing. You look at let's take, because we were on the subject, let's take World of Warcraft, for example. You would grind out in vanilla, and you'd also in BC and everything. But now when Warlords came out, there was a few awesome cut scenes, and the graphic improvement was great and whatever, but there is a lot more cut scenes, and it was a lot more story driven. So I think what's happening now is, because the game industry is able to afford a lot of these writers and a lot of these other creative minds, they can bring them in and really get an interesting story going and really get a great team and afford more talent to make these fantastic cut scenes. Because the opening intro to Warlords of Draenor was like, what, 5 minutes, 4.5 minutes, and it took them 2 years to make. So the more success that you build, you can bring in more of these awesome bodies and minds, and really invest in something that's being someone telling you a story, rather than just get in and mindlessly do something for a little bit and then leave. No, this is becoming a huge addiction for people, to be involved in the story of a game. Look at Order 1886. That was like watching a movie. It played wonderfully. I loved the game. People can argue it's too short, but when you're paying $60 for a game like that, you used to pay $60 and just get something that was endless, mindless fun, but there was no story. So now what you're paying for is, oh, now I'm getting a story. Now I'm getting better graphics. Now I'm getting better gameplay. So the game doesn't have to be as long in order for you to get your full $60 worth, in order to get that awesome experience that you want out of a game, where you walk away thinking, oh, that was a fantastic game. I will definitely recommend that to someone. If DLC comes out, I'll download it, or hopefully you don't have to buy it, but I'll download it or whatever. Order 1886 was like that. I think it's moving into a more cinematic style of playing, because let's take The Last of Us, for example. I mean, they had one of the biggest voice actors in the gaming industry who was voicing Booker. He's the same guy who was in Far Cry, and he was the bad guy in Far Cry, and he's been in a lot of other huge games. And they take someone like that and they create this fantastic story, and you go through and you just had someone tell you a story, is what that was. It wasn't jump into this PvP match and go fight your friends. It was jump in and immerse yourself into a world, and have someone tell you this fantastic story, which I love. Because then it pulls such a different type of community into gaming. It pulls such a different type of feel to your game. Alien Isolation is another one. That was very cinematic feeling. Even though there wasn't that many cinematics in that, it just felt so movie-like, like I was watching something, just because I was so engaged in the story. Next question that we have is, which game would you like a remake of? Would you add or take away anything? I mean, there's a lot. I mean, Way of the Samurai from PlayStation 2. Way of the Samurai is one that I really want to have a full-on remake of. There's been some other games that have been like it, but Way of the Samurai, the original one, I want there to be a little bit more of some better voice acting, rather than just, Asian guys grunting at each other for audio or for dialogue. You're of course going to get improved graphics and everything, because that's what a remake is. But I think Way of the Samurai is probably what I would have to pick. Another one is, if Smash Bros could go back to the original Smash Bros feel, I would like that as well. I think Way of the Samurai sticks out for me more than anything. Just the sword play in that was awesome. You could have different types of swords that you held them differently, and therefore you fought with them differently. So there was a great, great dynamic to that game that I wish was back. Not like recycled 20 Dynasty Warriors and then Samurai Warriors and then, Kitchen Warriors and all those warriors. Weekend Warriors. Next one is, why is flying... Sorry, guys, I'm a World of Warcraft guy, so you're going to hear a lot of World of Warcraft from me, but why is flying such a big deal in WoW? Laziness. Laziness, for sure. A lot of the developers at Blizzard think that flying was probably one of the worst things that they brought up, because it changes the game completely. Now, this subject has been beaten bloody by everyone else on the internet. My 2 cents on it is, take Miss Pandaria, for example, when you were doing the farming for when you were in town long steps and you had your little stupid farm thing and you had to go do your dailies and everything. You didn't want to fight the guys. You didn't want to play the game. You just wanted to get your crap and go over, take it to your stupid little farm and go get cool rewards. Well, that's not playing the game the way Blizzard intended it to be played. They intended it to be that even the farming for that, I call it farming, gathering resources, but even the gathering of those resources, the journeying out, should be a challenge as well. But with flying, you could just go right above, boop, gather your crap, and fly back out. Well, then what's the point of them putting the mobs in there around that then? What's the point in them putting all these other things? And you could argue that they should have, drops off those mobs for dailies and everything, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure that that's in the works. But flying is a big deal just because of patience. People don't have it. I admit I don't have it. However, making Warlords of Draenor without flying, of course, now with this new patch, it's going to be in there if you get an achievement for it. And they made it difficult as crap to get. You have to be like lore master of all the stupid regions and everything and do all the quests. But which is fine. I think that it shouldn't just be something that's handed to you by just some gold. It should be something that takes work. But I think it's just laziness that people don't want to experience, or people just want to get their upgrades and get out, which is not what an MMO should be. An MMO should be a grind. That's just the fact of the matter. If you don't like it, you don't have to play it. But you can see the quality of the story difference in your experience in Draenor when you were cruising around on your whatever in your 6FO and going through all the regions, forcing yourself to follow those paths and everything. You were able to really immerse yourself into that world and really appreciate it, rather than just boop, just fly straight up and just fly over everything. You don't appreciate the actual realm around you, which is something I really like. I love the music. I love hearing that, the ambient noises. I love hearing the dialogue from people as you run by them or something. And I love getting jumped by a random mob, whatever. I mean, I think that's fantastic. It's a splendid adventure. And for you to just want there to be flying so you can just, SWAT shop and SWAT level up everywhere you want to go, you're not getting the full experience out of the game. Some people don't want to do that, and that's okay. But that's why it's a big deal. And just answering the question. That's going to wrap it up for the podcast this week, guys. Let me know what you think. We're going to be uploading this on YouTube first, so let me know what you think in the comments section. If there's anything you want to hear about, go ahead and send me emails. Spam me with emails, questions, comments, concerns, pictures, no nudes, please. And it's going to be Dr. Shmad. That's doctor, if you know how to spell doctor, and then Shmad, SHMAD @gmail.com. You can also follow me on Twitter @Schmadams_445. Go ahead and shout out on there. Let me know if there's something you want to hear about. Let me know if you're excited to hear a little bit more. As for that, thanks for tuning in, guys. You have a good night.